We are live. We are live. Me and my guy Johnny Brock every single Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Coming to you today, talking a little bit about ourselves. Just normal conversation between two human beings that have been through a lot. We've been through the mud, as people like to say it, and we want to just come to you guys with a quick little conversation. Nothing too specific, but man, look at my guy with that nice suit on today, man. I told Johnny right when we started, I'm like, man, I've never seen you with the suit on, but I believe I have. So man, it looks good. We're switching roles here. I'm over here all just casual, and you got the suit on. I got to
Yeah,
get my beanie. I don't have my beanie on. I should throw my beanie on right now too.
you should, dude.
Yeah, man. It's just, man. It's just I want to bring some reality to the viewers, to the listeners. What we've been through. Because we've come from kind of similar paths. To a degree, right? Me personally, I was a drug addict when in my high school career, man. I started smoking weed at like age 14 till about like age 20. Right when I got into insurance, I was still smoking. I was still, I moved out to North Carolina, and I wasn't just smoking, man. I was dealing this stuff. I was moving some weight, as they like to say in the street terms, right? And it's crazy, man. I moved to North Carolina to start my insurance career, and I was still driving back to Ohio to do my dealings, what I was doing when I was living in Ohio, right? And then, man, it's like crazy because some people, they jump into the insurance industry, and man, they're like part-time, right? They're half-time. They're 50% in. They're not even 50% in. Maybe they're 25% in. They still have another job on the side. It's like, you got to realize how much freaking potential is within the insurance industry, how much it can change your life, and get around other people that are doing the same thing as well. Watch shows like have a weekly show, watch podcasts of other insurance people, and like, dude, like the opportunity is endless. Like, why are you not going 100% all in with what you're doing, right? So it's like, it brings me back to when I first got into insurance. I was not 100% all in. I moved to North Carolina. I was still driving back to Ohio to deal drugs. Like, I was still smoking at the time. And it's like, what was I even thinking? I spent months not being full-time in insurance, right? It's like, man, like, dude, I'm so thankful for where I'm at, thankful for what I've been through, right? Because we wouldn't be who we are unless we went through what we went through, right? We wouldn't be as strong, as resilient, as persistent as we are if we didn't go through what we went through. So man, I know you have some similar background as me. Like I said, I was smoking weed from age of 14 to age 20, multiple run-ins with the police, almost went to juvenile prison, bro. Almost went to juvenile freaking prison during my junior to senior year. I was on house arrest for like almost my entire senior year, right? Like, people don't know this about me. People see the glamour and the shine, like, always, I'm always dressed professionally like you are right now, Johnny, and people don't know this, right? We're just normal individuals that have freaking just continue to show up every single freaking day and just, man, make a way, right? And that's, it's cool because, man, I'm thankful I got some street background, plus the educational smarts, or the book smarts, right? You got to have a little bit of that street, a little bit of the book smart. And many people don't know that, right? Many people don't know the background, besides people that are really like close to me. And, I try to share it as much as I can to bring some folks some reality. But man, it's awesome, man. And I know you've been through some similar things, man.
Yeah. So, it kind of, everything happens for a reason, right? It goes back to that, right? So you pull yourself through the trenches, right? And you say the streets. I say the trenches, right? I mean, it's ultimately, Ryan and I, we made decisions years ago to sling dope and put all our energy into that. There was a time period where I wasn't even working, and I always had a job, right? And it would get to the point where, I was, first of all, it all boils down to I was surrounded with the wrong people, right? That's really what it boiled down to, is I was around the wrong people and I admired the wrong people. And there
Mm.
was a time period where, I was working two jobs, both of them working in a kitchen cooking, right? And then I was also, selling weed, right? And some other things along with that, right? Whatever made money at the time. And And then it gets to the point where I was like, why am I working? I'm making like $300 a week doing this, and I'm making way more. I should go full time into selling weed. So it was I did that for a little bit, and that was actually right before. See, I was involved with some people, and they ended up screwing me over, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. At the time, I was pissed. I was like, you guys, this y'all ruined the best relationship you ever had, right? And but at the end of the day, I needed that to happen, right? I needed to get screwed over, and it brought me to reality, right? And the reality was that you're never going to really in that life, you're not going to find the relationships that you need in order to reach your full potential, because most of those people, actually, I would say all of those people that are in the streets, and whether you think they're your friend or not, they're holding you back, right? They don't want you to do better than them ever, right? They never want you to do better than them, and that was the biggest issue. Is I got screwed over by somebody when he realized I was doing better than him. But like I said, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I've suffered with whether it be selling the stuff and being on the stuff. I've been in and out of addiction and I'm still I still suffer with that. I still struggle with that on a day-to-day basis. I'm not somebody who for any second is going to pretend like I've got all my shit together. I struggle with it every day, and it's a once a day thing, right? I'm going to stay sober today, right? Today is the day, right? You focus on today. You don't worry about tomorrow. You don't worry about the past. All that aside, it did, so what happened was I was involved in all that street stuff, right? Where my life was, it was drugs and alcohol and partying and doing all that stuff, surrounding myself with losers. And then one day, Justin Brock took me to a conference, and I got around people that were thinking bigger on a different level that I had never seen before. See, I had never seen stuff like that. I had never seen a bunch of people that were as passionate about building a business as I was about the dope world. And because I was passionate about partying, and I was passionate about slinging a little bit of dope and sitting around with my thumb up my ass all day, right? Being able to survive and pay my bills and not do anything was my goal. And I got around those people, and I realized that it's actually a lot more fun. It's a lot more rewarding, to be able to do something, achieve something, set a goal out and achieve it is much more fun than sitting around and slinging dope or whatever it may be. Doing it's much more fun, right? To achieve something and do something bigger than yourself. And the gif of it is that if me and Ryan can do that, right, anybody can do it, right? So if you find yourself where you're kind of stuck in the mud and you're doing, and it doesn't have to be drugs and alcohol and partying. That's not what it has to be, right? You could be a straight shooter, right? And you're working in a factory or you're working in a restaurant, and you don't think that you can do better. That's the key here, is that you can do better than what you're currently doing. And the insurance industry is a huge stepping stone and a huge tool to use to get yourself to where you want to be. Let's say that you want to open up a restaurant, or you want to open up a retail store, or whatever your goals may be. The insurance industry can just be a stepping stone for you. Odds are, once you start doing it, you'll realize that you like it, and you'll realize the money's great. Why go and do something else, right? Just keep making money selling insurance and helping people with their Medicare or the life insurance or whatever. But at the end of the day, the point of I think today what we are talking about is that if we can come out of those trenches, whatever they may be for you, you can do it too. It's actually as simple as surrounding yourself with the right people. And like Ryan was talking about, looking at, certain content. What he's talking about when he says podcasts and things like that is consuming the right content, right? So, back then, I would say you could probably say the same thing, Ryan. My content was negative stuff. Mm-hmm. The content I was consuming was all negative. And then once my algorithm, whether it be my life algorithm or my Facebook and Instagram algorithm, once my surroundings changed, it changed too. I remember one day specifically, and then I'll kind of let you take on, this point. We were going to So I was obsessed with Donald Trump, right? And this is totally like not about, you know, the screwing off portion of it, right? This is about my algorithm, right? Because whether people realize it or not, the content that you consume is a direct correlation to the amount of success that you're going to achieve, right? Your content needs to be positive. Well, all of my content in 2016, 2007, well, actually, it was 2019, 2020, when there was that re-election was coming up, right? All my content was Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton stupid, Donald Trump, Joe Biden's an idiot, Donald Trump, and it was a bunch of negative stuff, really, in reality. You know, whether I still agree with it, and I agree with, you know, my political, you know, stance hasn't changed, right? But the point is, the president, doesn't matter who the president is, they're not going to help you, right? So when I was, we were on the way to an event, and we were riding in the we had a big Mercedes van with, you know, decked out with Go Guru, and, you know, we were riding out there, like 6 or 7 of us, and my brother noticed that my phone was constant negative stuff about the election. And he got on my phone, and he started clicking hide. And the algorithm actually picked up on that. And I didn't see Donald Trump and Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton stuff for a long time. And I still don't see very much of it. But what happened was, you know, I started paying attention to positive content, and positive content started coming into my life more. Right. So just a little point there, right, I wanted to make is that the content you're consuming is affecting your life, whether you realize it or not. And the content I was consuming back then was negative. So if you can make that transition to the surroundings that you're around, the people, right? One more point, if you're holding on to the people that were slowing you down, you can't do that, right? You gotta go all in. Like Ryan was saying, he was still halfway in, halfway out. You got to go all in, and you got to get around the right people and consume the right content. And once you make the decision to do that, your life will change in ways that you can't imagine, right? Yep. So I'll let you take it away, brother.
Man, that's big stuff, man. I love to hear about where you came from to where you're at now. And also, man, as we both know, like where we're at now is not where we're going to end up. We're continually growing. We're continually improving. Man, some of the biggest key takeaways I just got from what you said, Johnny, was number one, like your surroundings, number two, your content. And then, you know, number three, just like making that decision to change, right? Because for me, it's like, man, there was so many times where I'm like, man, I want to quit smoking. I want to like, and the thing is, like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, you know, you're in the streets, you're in the trenches. It doesn't have to be, you know, you're smoking weed. Like, it could be like, man, you're spending too much time playing video games. You're spending your whole damn life playing video games. It could be, you know, you're just sitting around doing nothing. Like, you're looking at your phone. You're scrolling, watching Netflix, watching Hulu, Amazon Prime. You're scrolling your phone, looking through Instagram, looking through Facebook. You know, there's different devils that each person has, right? There's different devils. There's different, you know, what do we call them? There's different
downfalls,
vices. There's different vices that each person has, that we know we should be letting go of these vices or these devils, but we don't do it. And sometimes we wait until it gets too bad to actually make that decision. That's exactly how it was for me. Like, dude, I like I said earlier, multiple run-ins with the police, getting arrested multiple times, putting my parents through such bad situations when I was younger. You know, I got robbed multiple times at gunpoint, but like, dude, I just kept doing it. And the reason I kept doing it is because I did not change my surroundings, like you were talking about, Johnny, and I didn't change the content that I was bringing into my life, into my mind, right? So it's like, you don't have to get to a point where it's like, oh shit, now I got to make a change. Oh shit, now I have to, you know, make an adjustment. Like, if you know you should be making an adjustment or a change in your life, just do it right now. Like, you don't have to wait. You don't have to procrastinate. Just make that change right now. Like, the best thing that you can do is make a decision. You don't want decisions to be wandering around or to be lingering around. Like, the most powerful thing that you can do is to make a decision, to make a change, right? So it's like, that's where it was for me, man. I was like, dude, I got, oh man, multiple times with the police run-ins, multiple times getting robbed, literally just multiple times I'm like, oh, I want to quit. I want to quit. Like, oh, this is my last time. I'm with my buddies. We're doing some big hooray thing. Like, oh, we're going to smoke this much and this is going to be my last time. Like there was probably 20, 25 of those times. But then it got to a point where I was getting into insurance. I was still living in my parents' basement. And I'm like, man, I started listening to GC, right? This is when my life changed. I came across GC, Grant Cardone, and it was a video, like I think he was talking about smoking or something, but he was just talking about something. And man, immediately I'm like, all right, I got to stop this. Like I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? But you don't have to get to that point, right? Maybe you're an individual like Johnny was talking about, like you're a straight shooter, right? You're working a 9-to-5 job. You show up every single day. You're clocking the time, and you're getting your weekly paycheck. Like, hey, that's fine. But a lot of people know that they're worth more. A lot of people know that they're capable of doing more, but they just don't make that change. They don't make the decision, and they think too much about the risk. They think too much about, oh, the what ifs, or the what could happen if I do this, or they think about the negative, right? And it kind of ties into what you were speaking about. You were scrolling your phone, all you were seeing were negative things about the election, 4 years ago when Donald Trump was running. And that's what can happen to you as well. That's what can happen. That's what happened to me, right? All I was seeing was negative things. All I was listening to were these music videos about rappers, killing, shooting, robbing, drugs, women, promiscuity, all of that stuff. And that's what kind of consumed me. And I was surrounded, added to that, I was surrounded with the wrong people too. So, dude, I was someone completely different than who I should be and who I am right now. And it's like, you always got to understand, we always talk about this, like that one decision that you can make could change the entire trajectory of your life. So it's funny, I went out to North Carolina to visit my cousin that moved out there with his buddy. They were getting into insurance. I went out there with the primary intention and focus of like, man, I'm trying to find a new plug because I'm trying to find things cheaper instead of buying it in Ohio. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go out to North Carolina. But then next thing I know, they're telling me about insurance. They're telling me about how much money they're making with insurance. I'm like, dude, I got no direction. I'm a drug addict. Ain't nothing going right in my life. I'm going to try this out. Right. And then
one decision.
Yeah, one freaking decision. Then everything changed from there. But man, it's like that was a turning point in my life. I was in my parents' basement. Dude, I was smoking in the back room. Like they didn't even allow me to smoke in their house, but I was just doing it because they couldn't control me. I was out of control animal mess that they couldn't control. But I was in the basement. Man, next thing I know, like I'm listening to some GC while I'm smoking this joint or something. Like next thing I know, like, oh, just a spark in my head, like, oh, I gotta stop this. Like this is it. Right. And finally, like everything stopped, everything started to change. And man, it's funny because I quit for like 2 years and then I got around some wrong people. And next thing I know, I started smoking again for an entire year. And that's how easy things can change. Like you can make a positive change. And like you were talking about, Johnny, like this change that you're looking to make, or these positive improvements that you're looking to make, it's literally a daily thing that you have to deal with. Maybe it's Netflix. Like, dude, it's so easy to get consumed into watching Netflix every single day, watching movies, right? Chilling on your couch. Maybe you have a substantial amount of income coming in, right? And you can get tied into like, oh, I'm good. Like I'm paying for my living expenses, which is fine. But like you have to make that decision every single day. You have to commit every single day. Like commitment is not a one-off thing. Commitment is something that you have to do every single freaking day in order for things to change, in order for things to turn around. Like you have to commit every single day to whatever you're moving towards, right? Whether it's like for us, it was getting off weed, stop selling drugs, right? Man, there was a point I was doing harder things than just weed, as I'm sure you were too. And it really is just like, man, you got to commit to it. You got to get around new surroundings, right? And you got to change the content in which you're bringing in. If you're seeing a bunch of junk on Instagram or Facebook, dude, you got to remove it, right? But it's awesome to see where we've both came from. And it's cool to see also, like, man, we were talking about how you're going to Cancun for the next 2 weeks, talking about, you were talking about how you're doing, like getting around other people that are talking about rehabilitation as far as like, and that's what you're doing right now, man. I love it. Like you got these houses, these rehab houses in Tupelo. Man, you're doing something that is changing other people's lives. So that's what continually drives me to stay away from smoking weed because, man, I would love to just grab a joint right now and smoke it, right? I would love to do that, right? I wouldn't mind. Like, dude, I love
That's
that
the
stuff.
easy thing, though. That's the easy thing to do.
Exactly, bro. That's the easy thing to do, right? You got to make these hard decisions in your life. So you're not just impacting yourself, but you're also able to impact other people. You're able to do things like what Johnny's doing right now, building these rehab houses for individuals in Tupelo, Mississippi that are, need that rehab. And you're changing other people's lives, right? You're not going to be able to change other people's lives until you change your life. True. So that's where it all stems down to, man. So, man, it's awesome, man. It's so cool that, the journey that we're on and the changes that we're making, not just to ourselves, but other people.
It's you 1,000%. You can't help anybody until you help yourself. And so while we were talking, I was writing this down. Everybody's got a voice in their head, right? So if you're continually doing something that you got a voice in your head telling you not to do, right? You got to take the steps to stop doing it, right? And sometimes it's as simple as, trust me, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're not where I've been, which is like full blown, like I have a chemical dependency, I've got to do something to change it. If you're not there, it's easy to change what you're doing, right? If you're watching too much TV, or you're playing too many video games, or you have a job that sucks and you don't want to do it, or you're selling weed or smoking a lot of weed, trust me, weed is nothing. Like if you're in that situation or a situation similar, and you do want to make yourself better, and you've got that voice in your head that's telling you to do better, do it now, right? Stop screwing around. Go ahead. And like Ryan said, it's easy when it comes to bad habits, period, I would say. You always pick back up where you left off. So like Ryan said, he quit for 2 years and then boom, he hit a joint and it was over with. He smoked for another year, right? So you always pick up your bad habits, pick them up where you left off. So when you make that change and when you make that decision to also filter the people that you're going to be around. Because for Ryan, it was, hey, he got around somebody that was some people that were smoking dope. He started smoking weed again, right? That's what happened. It was easy. It's easy for him to get right back into that cycle. So make sure that you stay away from those things. It may not be that like weed is your vice. It may not be that drugs or alcohol are your vice, right? You may be the person that you have it under control, and your vice is that you think working a 9 to 5 is okay, going to a job that you hate just to feed your family. That's a negative as well, right? So do whatever you can to fix that as well. Now, so I also wrote down, now I scroll past it. So the negative content, consuming negative content, all those things, right, that I used to sit there and watch, right, and consume my mind with. Every time it might pop up on my phone now, I just scroll right past it because my brain doesn't want it anymore, right? So, and at what I still see a lot of, and I guess it's because I'm not actually, if you don't know this, here's a good trick for you. When you see content on your phone that you don't want to see, you're supposed to, if you don't want to see it, you're just literally supposed to click on it and click and say hide, or I don't want to see this, or something like that. I can't remember the exact terminology, but if you click that, the algorithm will see that and they'll stop showing you content like that. So like, if you don't do that, it's going to continue to show you those things because sometimes you're sitting there watching it and the algorithm knows that, right? So the key is not to just scroll past it. Tell the algorithm that you don't want that shit on your feed, right? You don't want to see it on your Instagram reels. You don't want to see it on your Facebook page because that content that you're consuming is having an effect and an impact on your life, right? So focus on that positive content. Uncle G, Patrick Bet David, they got all these different people out here that you can listen to. I mean, Andrew Tate, right? Andrew Tate's a big one for me. I see a lot of Andrew Tate. I like Andrew Tate. I think he's a real motherfucker. And I like him. So I listen to him and I pay attention to what he says, right? So when he's on, I pay attention to it. And this idea that he's bad, by the way, just a little side note, is false, right? He's all about men being men, right? That's what he's about. And he's about the betterment of the men in this world, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. So, I mean, that's really all I wrote down. Everyone's got that voice in their head, and you need to listen to that voice. For you may be a Christian, you may be a religious person, and that voice is for me, it's the Holy Spirit telling me, hey, what are you doing, dude? You're doing something that you're not supposed to do, right? And for some people, it could just be your conscious, right? Your subconscious telling you, hey, that you're doing the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing to get to where you need to be, right? Because your subconscious can be programmed, right? And you program it whether you know it or not, right? So if you're programming it by watching negative content, or you're programming it by doing drugs or hanging around the wrong people, then you're programming your subconscious to continue to make decisions subconsciously. You're just making decisions. You're just like going through the motions, you know. So there's a movie called Click, right, with Adam Sandler, and in the movie he clicks through his life, and then the remote starts predicting when he wants to click through it, right? So at a certain point, he begins to be on autopilot, and he'll skip through like 10 years, right? So that's what happens to people. We get on autopilot, and our subconscious just starts making decisions, right? And we just start doing things, and we go through the motions, and we got a bunch of momentum, but it can be negative momentum. So your goal and your focus should be positive momentum, building it, heading towards your goal, going up on an upward trajectory, making decisions, because at some point you want to get to that point where everything's just natural and you're in a flow state and you're constantly making the right decisions that are helping you get towards your goals and targets, right?
Absolutely.
Take it away. Spit some fire for these folks, man.
It's two reals talking real talk today on a Tuesday afternoon.
Here's the key, though. Here's the key. Me and Ryan put ourselves through all that, right? When we were doing all that stupid shit, we knew that we were doing the wrong thing, right? And by no means are me and Ryan perfect now, right? We continue to educate ourselves, continue to do better, right? And we continue to take the necessary steps to get better, right? If we do something like take a year off and do what we know we're not supposed to do, right? We are going to make the steps to course correct and get back on track, right? We're humans. We're not perfect. And if you go from where you're at now to getting to the point where you're on an upward trajectory with positive momentum, there's going to come a time when you also are human and you do something you're not supposed to do, whether it's, you know, you were saying all kinds of stuff earlier, right? So focusing on women, focusing on drugs, focusing on alcohol, focusing on whatever. And I'll go ahead and tell you right now that if you think that alcohol is not a drug, you're wrong. Alcohol is honestly, in my opinion, it's the worst drug because it will ruin you. It'll also make you do other things that you shouldn't do, right? So, you know, just the main point that we're making here today is that, you know, we've been through it. We know where you're at. If you're somebody who is in a situation you don't want to be in, we know where you're at, and all it takes is day to day, like focusing on one day at a time, right? So that's one thing, like in recovery, like when it's one day at a time. And it's also one day at a time for whether it be your business or your marriage or your friendships or whatever. It's one day at a time. You focus on making the right decision today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about yesterday. Focus on today, making the right decision. And if you do that, if you say today, I'm going to course correct and go in the direction that I want to go in, we can tell you right now that we can actually literally train you, get you the contracts you need, and help you get out of the life that you're living by helping individuals with whether it be life insurance or Medicare. Those are two fields that people need help in, and you can come into the industry that we're in, and we can train you and get you where you need to be. And ultimately, it's not very difficult. It just takes a little bit of commitment, right? Every single day, getting closer and closer to the end goal, which should be success, right? And you're right. For me, so where I'm at today, 4 years ago was like, once I get there, I'm straight, right? And you just get to these points, right? Like I remember when I had $19 in my bank account the first week I was selling insurance, and then I had 2,000, and then I had 5,000, and then I had 12,000, and then I had 20,000, and then it's just like it continues to go up and up and up, and you're just like, wow, this is pretty cool. But then you start to realize that, you know, what a lot of people think is a lot of money is not a lot of money. So you know, your outlook, right, and your point changes, right? From where you're at, it changes, right? So as you get better and as you grow, you're going to see things differently. So right now, where you're at, if you want to be somewhere and then you make the decision to get there, right? Once you get to that point that you made a decision to get to, I hope this makes sense. Once you make a decision to take the steps to get to a certain place, once you get to that place, you've got so much momentum built up that your mind has changed to where you want to go. You just want to keep going. And what it is it's momentum, which we talked about last time we were on, right? It's all momentum. Once you make a decision to change your life, your momentum you have, first of all, you have levels of momentum. You got an overall life momentum, right? Which is like, okay, I've worked really freaking hard for a year, and then you take 2 weeks off for vacation, right? You haven't killed your overall momentum. You've killed your momentum down here. But once you get back to work and you build it back up, boom, you're back on track, right? Just because you take a couple weeks off and go to Cancun doesn't mean that you've killed your overall momentum, right? Also, when you're in the insurance industry, you can work from Cancun. So you can get up and you can call people and do what you need to do to continue the bottom momentum. So I just see it as levels of momentum, right? I'm on a really good momentum trajectory, right? I mean, from where I was in 2020 to where I am now, I'm killing it, right? And then I've also got my day-to-day momentum, right? So day-to-day momentum can take a hit. It really can. And it all comes from like making the decision to start smoking weed again or something like that, right? Or taking 2 weeks off for vacation with your family. You should do that, right? You should absolutely take time off to decompress and enjoy your life and enjoy the fruits of your labor. But it is, at the end of the day, it does not kill the overall trajectory of your momentum. You have levels to the momentum. Do you see what I'm saying as far as the levels to the momentum goes?
100%, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, you just got to keep stacking the wins. You just got to keep stacking those wins. When you start to win, do not let that momentum go. And that's the thing is, like, sometimes we get to winning in life. Sometimes we win a lot, and then we think we can coast back. We think we can let our foot off the gas, but it's the complete opposite. So, and that's what can happen, because once you stop that forward trajectory, what you're talking about, Johnny, once you stop that momentum, you can get sucked right back into where you were maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, like easily within seconds, right? By getting around the wrong people, bringing in the wrong content, you're getting complacent, right? That's when the devil really attacks you. When you're getting complacent, when you're getting comfortable, and when you know, the devil's workshop is the idle hands, right? Or whatever that's
idle hands is the devil's playground.
Exactly, dude. So when you get complacent, when you get comfortable, that's when like shit starts happening. Like that's when your stats start going down, your income starts going down, right? And that's when you start to move into an opposite direction of the direction that you really should be going to, right? So it's really, man, it really all boils down to just confronting every single day, right? A lot of people have a very low level of confront. I used to have a very low level of confront myself. But confronting every single day that, man, I got to make a decision to continue to move forward. I got to make a decision to continue to build this momentum, to continue to get that upward trajectory in my life. So continuing to confront that, and always knowing that no matter how far you've gotten in life, no matter where you're at currently in life, your income level, you know, where you live, what you drive, what you dress in, no matter where you're currently at, your current status, things can always go down. Like things can always get taken away. You can always like, and that's, man, like I'm operating on a state of like paranoia, right? Like, shoot, like I gotta stay on my game, because like I said earlier, man, I was clean for 2 years. Next thing I know, like I get around the wrong people. I'm at a kind of comfortable point in my life. It's funny. It was right during the year of COVID 2020. I wrote like $500,000-$600,000 of premium within like a 6-month span. And next thing I know, I get around this wrong individual and I start smoking weed again, right? Just because, man, I'm getting comfortable. I'm like, man, I'm making all this money, right? So that's why it's so important to continue to level up in your relationships, continue to level up with who you're surrounding yourself with your environment, with what you're learning. Continue to learn, because, man, that's what keeps you on the edge. It's what's going to keep you on your toes. And in the long run, it's really going to keep you so focused and intentional with what you're doing in life, where you're going in life, what you're looking to accomplish. And it's going to constantly, you know, you're constantly going to expand your potential. Like you were kind of talking about, Johnny, like At one point, you're like, okay, like my goal is, let's say your goal is $100,000 to store away in the bank account. You reach that. Now you're like, oh shoot, what's next? What am I just going to stop working? Am I going to be complacent? No, like now you need to set a new goal, because constantly every single day we're realizing and expanding on our potential, right? Our potential grows as we continue to grow, right? So what's going to keep you in the game? What's going to keep you excited? What's going to keep you on your toes is like continually moving towards your full potential, right? And that's ultimately what helps me out, man. So, just continually confronting every single day, confronting like, man, like I'm either moving forward or I'm moving backwards. There is no in between. There is no in between whatsoever. There's no gray area. We're either moving forward or we're moving backwards in life. And always confronting and always doing a self-evaluation. I do this a lot. Like, who am I surrounding myself with? Who am I associating with? Who am I communicating with? What am I learning? What am I seeing on my Instagram? Am I scrolling too much on my Instagram? Am I looking on Facebook too much? Whatever it might be, right? I'm constantly evaluating what's currently going on in my life, especially when things are going well. You need to evaluate, okay, like what am I doing that's helping my life move forward, right? And continue to do that. You need to write it down. Or hey, maybe you're at a down point in your life. You really need to evaluate. You really need to be self-aware of like, man, who am I around? Or what am I listening to? What am I reading? What am I seeing? What's going on in my life, right? And that's how it was for me. It's like, man, like 8 years ago, I'm like, dude, what is going on in my life? I do not like the way my life is going. I don't like, jumping from 9-to-5 job to 9-to-5 job. I don't like anything about my life.
Getting robbed.
It doesn't have to stay like that. But I hit rock bottom. And sometimes maybe you do have to hit rock bottom. It could be that way. It could be that way, but you got to have that ability to bounce back up. But it doesn't have to be that way. If you're not getting the life that you want, if you're not creating the life that you want, you're not getting the results that you want, like just make the change, make the decision like we were speaking about earlier, man. It's just, there's no reason to be unhappy in life. There's no reason whatsoever to be unhappy, to be unsatisfied, to not get exactly what you want to achieve. There's no reason. There is no reason.
The only reason is that you're speaking that into existence. I mean, I've seen, so many people, and I feel like I used to do this too. There's most people, and I hate saying this, but I got a lot of clients this way. They think the world's out to get them, and they think that they can't do better than what they're experiencing. You speak it. What you speak, actually. I'll show you. See what that says?
Mindset. Yes, sir.
It says thoughts become reality. So you speak it right into existence. Whatever you feel like, whatever you talk about will come to fruition, right? And I feel like, Ryan, and you probably did this too, but I feel like even when I was doing the things I wasn't supposed to do, I would still talk about where I'm going to be, right? And then eventually that day came, and I look back and I was like, even when I was continuously making these decisions that I didn't need to make, I was still programming my subconscious to eventually make the decision that I needed to make to get out of that rut. So you might be out there right now and you might be going through the motions and doing the same old thing. But if you're sitting there telling yourself that you're going to be better and you're going to get out of this rut and you're going to, accomplish things, you're programming your subconscious to make the decisions that it needs to make to get there. I promise you. So that you might be seeing this video because this is the video you're supposed to see to say, hey, you know what? I should be getting into the insurance industry, or I should be getting into this industry that, or this opportunity, right? I had a guy come in here earlier and sold me $2,800 worth of clothes, right? Do whatever it is that would be a cool job. I would do that job, right? You dressing real nice. You go to a lawyer's office, an insurance office, and you're selling these people clothes. Seems cool to me. Seems like it'd be fun, right? If he sells somebody $2,800 worth of clothes, he's making a good amount of money off of that, right? Commissions are where it's at, right? We know that. So let's say that you got this opportunity and you're seeing this video. We're telling you that you can do whatever it is that you want to do. And why would you live this one life telling yourself that you don't deserve better, right? We all deserve whatever it is that we want. And hey, if you want to sit on your ass and watch Netflix all day, go for it. But I promise you, in reality, you don't want to do that, right? Because you're not getting anything out of this life. And God said he does not want us to be sitting around. I don't know the exact verse, right? I don't know. I'm just saying. I've heard that God wants us to do things. Okay, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I read the Bible front to back. I read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, right? And that's the books about Jesus, right? That's what I read, right? And I need to read all of it. And if I read it all, I still wouldn't remember all of it, right? There's a lot of information in there. But I do know that God doesn't want us sitting around with our thumb up our ass. He wants us doing stuff. He wants us being, beneficial to society, right? And ultimately, you can do it, right? You just need to pay attention to what's being thrown at you, right? And this video, whether it be this video or somebody else's video or somebody that's come into your life and they're really successful and they're doing great things, right? Because everybody knows somebody that's doing well. It's the people that sit around and say, oh, look at that lucky son of a bitch, instead of actually taking the steps to doing the same thing that person did, right?
Must be nice.
Another thing, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yep.
Right? So.
Yes, sir. Man, appreciate you, Johnny. This was
Appreciate
great.
you,
Like I said earlier, man, just some real talk going on. Real talk from some real people that been through some real things. So we look forward to seeing everyone next weekend, Tuesday at 12 noon. Hope everyone found some value. Hey, if you ain't doing what you want to do, make that decision right now and do it. Change whatever you got to change. Make those adjustments. Get out the rut you might be in and really create something for your life. Create something out of this life that you have. Play a bigger game. Get some more problems. We'll see you guys next week.